Let me wipe my tears first. Hold on. Welcome back to the Maple Leafs Media postgame show, everybody. You got myself, Jake. You got Rib, and down below we have Clarky, aka Clarky Snipes. It's a tough loss, but honestly, I'm not too worked up about it. Clarky, how you doing tonight?
Doing as good as after a Leaf loss. You never can be that happy. But, it's the weekend, so still got Sunday. I look forward to tomorrow, and we got a bit of a break on the schedule. So, recoup, refresh, and, still doing pretty good. It was a good trip out west. How about you, Red?
We see, yeah, can't speak. We saw some pretty good games the last few games. Obviously, the Leafs come out of the Alberta trip with what is it now, 3 wins and an overtime loss, points in every single game. That's the important part. Coming out and getting those points in the Alberta trip, and I think tonight showed us once and for all what a generational player Connor McDavid is.
Definitely. We're going to get to talking about Connor McDavid first, but let's talk about how valuable this is. Maple Leafs, they won 3 of the 4 games on the Alberta road trip, and they earned a point in every single game, including tonight. And you know what? With earning that point, you can't be too upset about it. I mean, Alberta road trips are always tough, and you can't, like, Clarky and I were having this discussion on a past show. We were discussing how many games would we be content with pulling out of this Alberta road trip. I said I'd be happy with 2. Clarky wanted 3, and I think you got even more than 3. You got that extra point tonight in overtime. I'm content with it. Obviously, not the ending we wanted. It's a tough way to lose, but you're mentioning Connor McDavid. He's a special player, so let's talk about him. What did you guys think of his performance tonight?
Clarky, you go first, buddy.
I got his stats here. I mean, he played 23 minutes, so that says enough that, Edmonton really relies on him, and Draisaitl, I think, played 23 minutes too. But, he got 2 goals and assists, 3-point night. I mean, you got to give him the first star, and I guess we can all admit as Leaf fans, and true your comment about this, the goal he got on the Leafs, wow. Like, I mean, he just undressed. I mean, the second goal he got, where he went end to end, coast to coast, basically from all the way from BC all the way to Newfoundland. And he just went through the whole team, undressed them, and he had a nice top shelf goal. So we got to clap our hands to that. That was an amazing goal. And at the end of the day, he's probably the best in the league at this point. We can all admit that, I think, or him and Draisaitl neck and neck. But we'd all love to have him on the Leafs. But, yeah, just displayed his skills tonight. Displayed his skills.
And does that mark the second year in a row with potentially the goal against the year against the Leafs?
Yep.
That he always saves his best for his hometown team. And while those Leaf fans were not necessarily happy that he comes out and plays his best, you got to admire it as a fan. And I think we obviously all wish that we could have fans in the building for games like that tonight, so you could see that live. And I think Jason sums it up perfectly. McDavid was everywhere tonight. He was the difference maker in that game, and I really think that he willed Edmonton to victory.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking about this because I was doing a live stream reaction throughout the whole game. It was almost a 3-hour stream, but Connor McDavid was everywhere tonight. You summed it up perfectly, Clarky. From BC to Newfoundland, he was all over the place. He went up from the Yukon down to the furthest, most southern point of Canada. Connor McDavid skated 200 feet from end to end and made the Maple Leafs defenders look silly. And I think we would look silly if we didn't show what we were talking about.
Hits the red line, now the Toronto Blue, right around Muzzin to the net, wrist shot, score! Coast to coast!
Unreal goal from Connor McDavid. I mean, he's such a special player, and he's a generational talent. You said it earlier, Rip. He's absolutely a generational talent. There's not much you can do to slow him down. I think we did a pretty good job of it the first 2 games when we were playing in Toronto. But tonight, Connor McDavid got the best of us. And honestly, our team, we really looked tired on this Edmonton, Alberta road trip. It's tough. Connor McDavid was the best player on the ice tonight, but there's another great player playing out there tonight. Another generational talent, you could say. And he's on our team, Austin Matthews. What did you guys think about Austin Matthews' performance tonight? Rib, what did you think?
I really liked what I saw from Austin Matthews. I think he had a really good game. And I think you touched on it earlier that when he and McDavid play each other, they're trying to one-up each other. They train together in the offseason in Arizona. They're obviously good friends off the ice, and they want to show who's the better player of the two of them. And in both of their own heads, I'm sure they both think they're the best player in the NHL. And I couldn't help but think after watching that McDavid goal and then how Austin Matthews came back and scored a highlight reel goal himself, that he just sat there and like, you can do that, watch what I can do.
Clarky?
Yeah, I mean, just to get in some comments here, reflecting back on David's goal real quick, Henny M says McDavid 1v5. Shout out Henny M and John Howard. I said I'd give you guys shout outs on the show, so shout out, keep commenting. Everyone else, keep commenting. We need analysis after a tough Leaf loss tonight. And Jason says a special goal by a special player. So, just reflecting back on that McDavid goal is really nice. But for Matthews, I think he had a great game. And the Leafs were to win this game, I'd say the TSN turning point was when he responded a minute and like 50 seconds later after McDavid scored that stunner. He had a nice setup, him and Marner, tic-tac-toe, bing, bang, bow. That was a great goal. And I'd say overall that, Matthews is displaying, he's on a hot streak. He's got a lot of goals in the last like 5-6 games, and he's leading the team along with Marner, Tavares. We'll get into it tonight. There's a lot to get into, but yeah, I think he had a big game, and I think you got to put him as one of your starters tonight.
Definitely. We'll get into the 3 stars after, but I really like how you guys were talking about one-upping each other. These guys, they're friends, and in this offseason, they were practicing together down in Arizona. They got a lot of ice time together. These guys are very competitive, and it was noticeable on so many different levels. And Austin Matthews, I mean, his goal was nice, but that Connor McDavid goal, Connor McDavid ultimately got the best of Austin Matthews and the Maple Leafs tonight. But we'll be seeing this team 5 more times this season.
Yeah.
This is the kind of matchup that I was expecting to see between these two teams. High-flying matchups with high scoring. I wasn't expecting to see, the 3-2, 2-1 kind of games. Those low-scoring kind of games we saw the first couple meetings between these teams. I was expecting to see these high-flying matchups. Not matchups where it's all like weird goals like we saw in the first game. But all in all, I'm very content with this road trip. And I'm going to get to some comments here because Jason says, yeah, we did well or John rather, says, yeah, we did well in Alberta. We'll rebound next game. Hi, boys. Like how Matthews responded. Yep. There was Rusty Nails said, I would say that was a successful road trip, Alberta road trip. Points in every single game. And these Alberta teams, they're pretty tough to play against. Tough teams to play against, and it's tough to travel to Alberta and play against both these teams anytime. We got the Canucks next, and it's another tough matchup. No matter what they're looking like right now, it's a tough matchup. It's going to be heated, and it's going to be interesting to see. But I'm very content with this road trip. We got points in every single game, and I think that's all you can ask for. We won 3 of the 4 games as well, so I'm happy with it.
And I think there's a really good comment there as well that I think we need to touch on a little bit later in the show. Perhaps Freddie didn't have the best complete game overall, but he really did make a big save at the end of the game that made the difference for the Leafs between going to overtime and getting that point.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just talk about Frederik Andersen right now. You want us to talk about him, Selman? We'll talk about Frederik Andersen. Frederik Andersen, I mean, okay, he looked a bit sloppy out of the gate in the first period, but I think he really stepped up his game going forward, and I thought that he could have been considered for the 3 stars. He's not on our 3 stars list, but I think he could have been because of this save that he made in order to secure a point for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Archibald! What a stop!
Did you see that? It was pretty quick. But steady Freddie, he secured a point for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was huge.
And I think
Yeah.
that's ultimately what it comes down to. And what, as Leaf fans, we really need to admire in Frederik Andersen is it's not always the greatest game every game for a goalie, but when you really do have those top level goalies, what separates them from your league average goalie is the ability to make big plays in the big moments when it needs to happen. And I think that's exactly what Freddie showed today. A few big saves and key saves throughout the game that really helped keep the Leafs in it, keep them around, and ultimately led them to getting a point.
Clark?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you got to give props for props due. He definitely that save at the end of the game that got us the point single-handedly. And I would say at the start of the game he did look a bit shaky, but like with that pass, he almost gave it to Archibald to score. But I would say overall he had a good game. And again, we're really relying on him, especially with Campbell out. I don't know if we're going to give Hutchison some starts. I think we need to give him one in Vancouver against Vancouver. Are all the games in Vancouver?
I'm not sure actually. I'd have to check up on that. I think it might be in Toronto, but I'm really
Okay.
not certain. I'm not certain.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think we probably have to give Hutchison and comment what you guys think. Do you think we should start Anderson every game while Campbell's out, sort of what Edmonton's doing with their goalie right now? Because I think that's another thing we need to consider. We're working him a lot, but overall, great game. And, all the Leaf fans in here tonight are giving him props. Jack Trout saying great show. Ron, yes, he did it again. There's a lot of comments. Jason, Freddie kept it in them early as well. I think you can't be down on Freddie, especially this whole trip. He's shown he's worth signing again next year.
And I
Yep.
think to counter back on what you pointed to, Snipes, I think we really want to give Hutchinson at least one game against Vancouver. Give Freddie a little rest. Obviously, it's a more condensed season, and we want to make sure that for a team with playoff aspirations that wants to go really far, a rested Freddie is going to make the world of a difference come playoff time. So I think getting him a few less starts, obviously with Campbell out, it makes it more difficult. But even if we can just give him a game in there, if Hutchinson can show that he's capable of coming in and playing a solid effort, keeping the Leafs in the game, I think Freddie could use a break.
Yep.
I wanna go back to this comment from Jason how Freddie kept them on in the game early on and how the Leafs had a slow start to the game. Early on in this game, it looked like a mess. The Edmonton Oilers were out skating us, out shooting us, out playing us, outworking us, out everything. They were imagine it, they were doing it better than us. And then I loved how the Maple Leafs responded in this game. The Maple Leafs responded. They faced a heavy load of adversity down against a very skilled team with generational talents in Draisaitl and McDavid. And then we responded well. We got a point. I'm very content with it. And going back home, play against the Canucks, 6 of our next 7 games at home. I think that's a setup for success for this team.
Yeah, I think that a lot of Leaf fans in here too tonight have the similar comments to what you just said. I mean, if we didn't go 7 out of 8 points and we had a game just like tonight, we'd all probably be a lot more upset. But at the end of the day, I'd say overall, down the stretch, we knew the win streak was going to come to an end. It was inevitable. Happened tonight, but let's get another streak going. I mean, who's to say we can't get on a stretch down at home? And thank you for the comments talking about end of the road trip. It's hard to keep track of the schedule, especially this year. It's a wonky schedule. So, yeah, Toronto's back at home, and hopefully they can get in the groove back in the Scotiabank Center.
And I think a big thing that we've been able to take away so far from watching these Leafs play, now that we're – how many games is it in this season? Like 8, 9, somewhere in there?
Yeah.
Is that
we're 10 games. That was the 10th game in the season.
10th game now. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's like a fifth of the way through it. Is that we've now seen the Leafs play the majority of Canadian teams. And look at the firepower they have. Have we yet to really have a game where at least 1 or 2 Leaf forwards didn't show up? They do have the depth, and the offense in this lineup is second to none. And I've yet to see in a Canadian team that can match it stride for stride.
Yeah, I mean it goes from the top of the lineup all the way down. There's so much depth, and I love how this win streak has been without Nick Robertson and Jumbo Joe Thornton, two players that we value in Toronto. You might not value them same outside of Toronto's market, but we value them here, and I think we've made a real statement and kind of put this division on notice that the Maple Leafs aren't messing around this year. We got points every single game in this Alberta road trip. That's huge. 4 straight victories, almost made it 5. Almost doesn't count though. This team, I really think that it's the most well equipped than it's been in a really long time. Up and down the lineup, so much depth. It's really valuable to have depth in this season with the pandemic and all that's going on.
I want to pose a question to both of you too, Snipes and you as well, Jake. Do you think this is the most depth we've seen on a Leafs team in our lifetime, in our short span since 1998?
Yep. I think it's without question, without a doubt. I mean, the depth on this team, it's invaluable. Last year, we had struggles at the goalie position, and now we saw what happens in the past when you have goalies that get injured, and it's tough. We have Michael Hutchinson, who was our backup for half the season last year, as our third guy. We have a lot of depth, and you look at the forward position, there's a lot of depth there. We've got guys like Dennis Melgan and like just random players that aren't even going to be touched really. Adam Brooks, he got an opportunity earlier in the season. I don't think these guys are going to get much playing time. And then you look at the defense, Travis Dermott, Mikko Lehtinen, Rasmus Sandin hasn't even played a game yet. We have so much depth, and this team's really well equipped going forward this season.
What about you, Clarky?
I'd say to add on that point, even reflecting on tonight, if you're looking at some of the stats comparing the two teams, I think there's no sense in debating it. We know that Edmonton's top 2 guys match up, if not probably better than anyone on the Leafs. But if we go down the lineup, especially on Edmonton, they had almost 6 forwards that played under 10 minutes. Leafs, on the other hand, we only had 2 forwards that played under 10 minutes. So I think that shows that, Keith is confident playing any team and mixing it up, playing all 4 lines, and, giving it to him. Matched up our 4th line against the top line. Playing our 3rd or 2nd line. Doesn't matter. We can go end-to-end with all 12 forwards, as well as our defensemen. I think that was a great point that you touched on, Varco, that we have good depth on goalie and defense now. That's really important. And I think that, the Leafs are a more complete team this year, and we're seeing it. But we got to keep it up. I mean, I did the calculations. We're only 18% through the season right now. So we got to keep it up. We got to keep, giving players rest too and mixing in that lineup, giving depth. I know that I was hearing the commentary tonight that Spezza felt a lot more rested when we scratched him the other night. I think we have to do things like that, especially with a guy that's 37 or if Thornton comes back that's 42. It's important.
I want to touch on that Spezza point you made because just you're talking about the depth, and when Spezza was rested that game, we had somebody, Travis Boyd, come in and play his first game as a Maple Leaf, and he scored his first goal with the team. That just goes to show how much depth this team really has. Like, it's invaluable.
And I think down the stretch, I've said it before, I'll say it again. With the uncertainty of the season and the unpredictability of injuries and illnesses that may come, that depth will be a lifesaver for the Leafs. Whether it be next week in the season, the final week of the season, or playoff time, having those extra forwards, whether they see the lineup every night or whether they just come in for spot appearances, but knowing that they can come in and do their job, that's what's really going to separate this team. And you saw it tonight. You have a team like Edmonton. They have more top-end talent. We can sit here and argue it all we want, but Draisaitl and McDavid are more top-end talent than the Toronto Maple Leafs. But the depth makes a difference. What do they have that they can run on a 3rd and 4th line? How can they keep up with a Kerfoot, a Zach Hyman, these players that we have farther down our lineup, when they can't even trust to play their bottom guys more than 10 minutes a game?
Yeah,
and
that's a problem.
Let's talk about the Oilers' depth for a second, because I made an interesting comparison on the stream earlier, and for anyone that wasn't watching, I think you guys might like this. So this is my comparison. The team I compare the Edmonton Oilers to right now is the Pittsburgh Penguins right now, not the Penguins that won the multiple Stanley Cups. Penguins right now, where they have Crosby, McDavid, Gensel, yeah. But after that, they really don't have adequate pieces surrounding these elite generational talents. And that's why the Pittsburgh Penguins are on a downfall right now.
Yeah, I mean, it shows that you really need to construct a team all in all together. And I mean, yeah, Edmonton's facing that problem. And Herb, I think you make a good point. Like we can't. There's no sense of denying it. And everyone's giving props to McDavid. He is so good, such a good player, and we'd kill to have him on our team. But I mean, Edmonton, they need to fix how they're constructed, but it's also a work in progress because I don't know if we've perfected it either yet. So we got to keep making sure that we have that depth, we have that balance, and maybe we don't this year. Maybe it's another year where we have to work on that somehow, getting a better defenseman or a better backup goalie, or not. Well, I don't think that's the issue, but nevertheless, there's always improvement to be made.
I feel like there's a lot of nitpicking. You can always pick an area here and there that could be improved. But the reality of a salary cap era, you're not always going to be able to fill every single need. And when you watch those teams that do, they run into salary cap issues. We saw with the Blackhawks dynasties of the early 2010s. They had to trade away talented players like Artemi Panarin because of cap issues. And I think the big thing is just maximizing the window you have. Right now, the Leafs are in a really good position. They're primed to make a deep playoff run. And this will be the season that I really think we could see that.
I mean, I'd love to see it. I'd love to
We
see
better
it.
see it. We better see it after this start.
You know what? I really believe in this team. Belief. I have so much belief in this team. I really do. Like more so than ever in my lifetime. We've witnessed a lot of heartbreak and heartache as Leafs fans, but maybe this year's different. We'll see. We'll see. It's early, but maybe, just maybe, we will see. Let's keep our fingers crossed for that. Maybe knock on some wood. Let's talk about the 3 stars of this game. But before we do that, make sure if you're watching this video, if you're new to the channel, or if this is your first time, on this channel, or if you're returning, smash the like button, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified every time we're live on Maple Leafs Media or anytime new content comes out. And if you're on Facebook, share this video wherever it may be. Helps out in a big way. Let's get to the 3 stars of the game, though. We've got comments rolling in. We'll get to those in a bit. 3 stars of tonight's game. I think we can all be in agreement with these, and they are Connor McDavid, first star. I mean, it speaks for itself what he did out there tonight. Austin Matthews, second star. I think that's fair analysis. And then the 3rd star of the game, former Toronto Maple Leaf, Tyson Barrie. He looked good out there tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he played a full 22 minutes, but 2 of those minutes were on the power play, 2 assists, 5 shots on goal. He was double shifting at the end of the game because they were down a defenseman. Looked great. I mean, I'll let you guys talk about the other 2. I know we've talked about them a lot so far, but I think we have to reiterate that Barrie did not meet his full potential in Toronto, and I don't think he has so far in Edmonton. But tonight he looked like a pretty good defenseman.
And I think that also speaks to sometimes it's a change of scenery for players, as we've seen with Jimmy Vesey coming into the Toronto Maple Leafs team. It seems so far like the change of scenery has really done him well as a player. You look at Wayne Simmons, the last few years he's had on some not so contending teams, coming in now and playing a really good supporting role for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And obviously, as Leaf fans, we wish Barrie had worked out better here, and we wish him all the best in Edmonton. But for now, we focus on what we have. And what we have is our generalizational talent, Austin Matthews. And I think he showed tonight what Austin Matthews is more than capable of. I know fans were a bit worried with the injury. And then there was the first game in Calgary. He definitely looked a bit tentative. But second game, he was coming back stronger. Tonight, played a really strong game. Austin Matthews is back. He's healthy. He's putting up goals. He's putting up points. And he's carrying this team offensively when he needs to. And he's a very competitive guy. And that was perfectly demonstrated, some 50 seconds, if that, after Connor McDavid scored his highlight reel goal. Austin Matthews coming back, scoring a goal himself. And I love to see it from our leader of this team, and a driving force of the Leafs offense, this is the Austin Matthews we need going forward.
Definitely. Austin Matthews, such a valuable generational talent. Not surprised to see Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid on these 3 stars, first 2 stars of the game. But Tyson Barrie, I mean, I'm gonna talk a bit about Tyson Barrie for a second. I think there's a couple reasons you can point to of why it didn't work out in Toronto, and I think one of them, he just wasn't a fit. Simply, we tried putting him with Morgan Riley, and I think that's something similar to what we've been seeing with Tyson Barrie and Morgan Riley together. 2 players that like to join up on the rush from the blue line, and you can't really have that. I like having one of those rocks that are always back there, like kind of like what Chris Pronger and Scott Niedermayer used to do in Anaheim. They had one back, one join the rush. That's kind of what I'd like to see from this Maple Leafs defense. And Tyson Barrie just didn't fit into that role. And also, I feel as if it was just a lot of pressure being traded for a fan favorite guy. Alex Kerfoot, on the other hand, he's been a valuable piece, and I think that Alex Kerfoot, his role is really solidified with this team.
I really like what Rusty Nails just touched on with Sam Bennett. And I think we should bring that up.
Yeah, I think we've seen a few comments in here about Sam Bennett. Earlier tonight, Elliot Freeman mentioned Sam Bennett wants to trade out of Calgary. Something probably to do with Bennett minutes. Would definitely do a Kerfoot and draft pick or Kerfoot and Dermott. Kerfoot is good, but Bennett plays with grit. Interesting.
Rib, what do you think?
You're the Calgary analyst here, so tell us what you think.
I would hate to see Sam Bennett leave Calgary. I was not happy when I heard this news, but obviously if he wants out, he wants out. And an Ontario boy, I don't think there's a doubt in my mind that he would love to come back and play for the hometown team of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I said it in the offseason, I remember one of our Leafs talked live on how a player like Sam Bennett would be a really good fit on this Toronto Maple Leaf third line. You talk about grit, you talk about needing a physical presence, and you talk about needing a player that shows up in the playoffs. You go back and look at Sam Bennett's playoff stats. You go back and look at it. Anyone in the comments that wants to tell me?
Pull it up right now. See, you're talking a big game.
He shows up in big games. He may not have had the best seasons, and he may have struggled in the regular season at times. But if you want a solid third line center for the playoffs, Sam Bennett is your guy.
Well, you got to watch. Sorry, go ahead.
He plays with that grit. He plays with that sandpaper that the Maple Leafs could always use more of. And I don't think you have to package a Kerfoot and a Dermott for him. I really think because he's already put in the request, they could do a Kerfoot low draft pick, swap it for Sam Bennett, mixes right into that Maple Leafs third line, and I think he'd be a really good fit.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't want to give up Dermott. I don't know what Bennett's contract is like either. I'm not sure.
I'll get that up.
But the thing, I don't want to get rid of Travis Dermott. Really, like he's so young, played over 150 games of NHL experience as a defender. That's very valuable. I mean, yeah, Sam Bennett. It's nice and all. I like the idea, but I agree with this comment here. I think that's too much for Sam Bennett. I don't really want to. I don't want to part with Travis Dermott. I think that's something that come back to haunt us.
So if you could keep Dermott out of the package and you just had to send Kerfoot, let's say a second or a third, would you do that?
Big catch here though. Before we go on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm lagging here. Sorry. I was going to say, big thing before we go on here. Sam Bennett is an expiring contract at the end of this season, $2.5 million. So he'll be looking for a new contract at the end of this season. That's just one more thing to consider. But he does have good stats in playoffs. I did look that up.
Well, Kerfoot's contract is until 2022, 2023. So for me, I mean, Kerfoot, I really like the way he fits into this lineup, and I feel as if that 14-day quarantine period is going to affect Sam Bennett really getting comfortable in this lineup. And if you want to win now, I mean, Sam Bennett's a valuable player. I'm not going to discredit that, but do you really want to mess with the chemistry that third line's built between Alex Kerfoot, Zach Hyman at times, and then Ilya Mikheyev? I really think that chemistry it's solid.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't do the deal, but I do see what Rib's saying. I mean, the guy's almost a point per game in the playoffs. So maybe he's just good down the stretch, but I personally wouldn't do it just because of the contract situation.
And I mean, we've got another player that people want to talk about. Did you want to touch on Sam Bennett anymore, Rib?
No, I think that more than covers it. We'll have to see what unfolds over the next few weeks, and maybe the Leafs do put together a package. Maybe he goes somewhere else. Maybe he ends up staying. But I think the whole hockey world, they'll tune in and see what happens in the situation.
There's definitely demand, though.
We've
For
got
sure.
a question, and it's about another trade. What do you think of Bobby Ryan coming to Toronto? Rib, let's get your thoughts on this first.
The biggest thing I wonder about Bobby Ryan coming to Toronto, because I really don't think it would be that expensive if you're looking at it. You're probably looking at mid-draft pick, maybe second round at the highest, depending on how he performs going up into the trade deadline. But where does he really fit in this lineup? Back to us talking about not wanting to disrupt chemistry and how even Sam Bennett may not be quite the addition you need. Where are you going to play Bobby Ryan? Look at the depth they already have. Look at the players they already have. Are you taking a Jimmy Vesey off the second line, throwing him down to the fourth, putting Ryan on the second line? Where does Bobby Ryan even fit? I don't see it. I don't see the need. I feel like we'd just be trading away a draft pick to fill a need the Leafs don't have.
Yeah, and it's an expiring deal as well. I mean, I think he could. Okay, if we found a spot for him, he would fit into this lineup nicely. I feel like he could build a nice chemistry with these players. But I don't see the glaring need for him, and I really don't see where we slot him into this lineup. If we could find a spot, I feel like he could build nice chemistry, but I just don't see it happening. Clark?
Yeah, I would add on. I looked up his contract too. He is pretty cheap. He's $1 million a year, but again, expiring at the end of this year. But I mean, I think we all gotta. I mean, I think that Bobby Ryan's gone through a hell of a lot as a player. I know he's dealt with some issues off ice, and I think that he still has something to give to an NHL team. I don't know if he fits in on the Leafs, but I think overall, you can't look down on Bobby Ryan as a player. I know he used to have some really great seasons in Anaheim. Went to Ottawa, kind of slipped off a bit, but I think he still has something to give. I just don't know if it's on the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's overcome a lot of adversity, and I don't really see it being beneficial to him and the rest of his career at this point, coming to a place where he's not going to play much, or to this team. Like, I don't see it working out for either parties.
Well, yeah, I think that was the main draw for him to go play in Detroit. It was a place that's rebuilding and a place where he can really get his legs under him and get a lot of ice time.
Yeah, be a veteran in a rebuilding team.
So I saw a comment in here earlier talking about the jerseys. We can get back to some statistics in a bit, but the trade talk kind of changed the subject to stats. We'll get the stats after. How about the reverse retro jerseys tonight? What was everyone's opinion? Let's start off with the Oilers jerseys. You know what? Let's talk about the Leafs jerseys first, and then we can go to the Oilers.
Just if I recall, Clarky, did you not go on record calling the Leafs retro jerseys Charmin toilet paper?
I did. I think that was alive a while ago at the start of the season, and I mean, I do not take it back.
Nope.
I'm just not a fan. I mean, I'm not a fan. The Leaf doesn't look bad, but just the color combination, I'm not buying that jersey. So
how much would someone have to pay you to buy that jersey?
Well, if they bought it for me, I'd take it. I'd probably I don't know who I'd put on it. Maybe I'm feeling like a Kerfoot lately. I like him. I like Kerfoot a lot, so maybe I put Kerfoot on that name. Not my favorite player, just like not my favorite jersey. But, at the end of the day, it's still Leaf jersey, so you got to somewhat like it. But no, I'm not a big fan. I don't like the gray. How about you guys? Marco, I see you smirking up there.
I like this comment here from Hot Take Hockey, and he did a raid for this channel a while back, so thank you to him. Make sure you check out Hot
Take Hockey, yeah, buddy.
Hot Take Hockey, shout out in the comment section.
Yeah, check out his content. A lot of great stuff over there, and I'm with him. What is this gray stuff? This is Maple Leafs. It's blue and white. You don't change it up. Just keep it simple. Blue and white is Toronto Maple Leafs. It makes no sense to have the gray in there. And honestly, I think they really tried overcomplicating it too much.
I am right with both of you. You have an original six team. You're gifted one of the most iconic color palettes in the whole sport. an iconic logo similar to those of the Yankees and the Dodgers in a baseball sense, where you have that brand that's been built up and cultivated over years, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Canada's team, one of the major hockey teams, and you pick to use gray. Gray.
Yeah, bad pick.
Look
I
at
don't
the
get
other
it.
retro. Look at some of the other retro jerseys. Look what the LA Kings were able to do, and that's not even as iconic a brand.
Okay, what about Edmonton though? What about Edmonton? Do you
I
like
think
Edmonton
they look
jersey?
like skating highlighters, and it just looks stupid. I mean, it's not as bad as the Maple Leafs, but they look pretty bad as well.
I don't like either. Edmonton or Toronto, Toronto's is worse, but Edmonton's ain't much better.
If I'm being honest, the best Canadian reverse retro jerseys are Calgary. Montreal's is pretty sweet, even though I despise that organization. They've got some pretty sweet jerseys for the reverse retros. And then the Ottawa Senators look pretty sweet as well. I love the blasty on Calgary, though.
Let's get into some comments here about what they think. So Ron Gent doesn't like the retro jersey. Henny M likes it because it's gray. Edmonton was decent in my opinion. Nevin. Jason Jasper says Edmonton makes them look like moving fast pylons. Wow, yeah, that's true.
Well, McDavid made some of us look like pylons tonight. So.
Yep. I mean, he does that. He does that occasionally. He's just unreal, talented player. I like this comment here, though. I'll take 7 of the 8 points on the Alberta road trip into this 4-day break. Not sure why Toronto is giving up a 2-on-1 with 10 seconds left, but I'll take the point. Got to give a huge shout out to Freddie Anderson for securing that point for us and getting a point in every single one of these Alberta road trip games that are so difficult. Hell of a job, hell of a performance on this road trip, and I'm feeling confident playing against the Canucks.
Yeah, I mean, we were having this conversation before, and I said the Leafs got to go 3-1. You can't see 2-2. There were some question marks before they head out west against Alberta, not against Alberta. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's a successful trip, and that 2-on-1 at the end. Not gonna lie, my cable actually cut out. I was flipping out. My Bell connection ended, and I didn't see the last 2 minutes of the game. I tuned in 30 seconds before the Leafs got scored on in overtime, so wasn't too happy heading into the show tonight. But at the end of the day, saw that save from Anderson. What a great save that was, and overall, got to be happy with how we performed out in Alberta.
A point's a point, and the Leafs come out with points in all the Alberta games, and I think we can fairly say that not every single one of those periods and not every single one of those games necessarily should have gone the Leafs' way, but they did, and that's what good teams do. They find a way to win and get points in games that they perhaps shouldn't get points in, and the Leafs are starting to come together. They're showing more grit and determination than they have in the past, and it's making a difference. This team went 3-0-1 in 4 Alberta games, and despite what you may think, and despite the periods you watched, for some of them being more sloppy than others, the record speaks for itself. The Leafs are an improved team, and they've demonstrated that.
Yep. I mean, Kyle Dubas fulfilled that promise of becoming a tougher team to play against. He said that, and it's come to fruition. But I like this question here. How do you guys feel about the long layoff? Pros and cons? I think there's more pros than cons for this because, we just went out to Alberta. We had a successful road trip, a very successful road trip. The long layoff, I think it's going to be good for this team. Get a couple days of rest, heal some bumps and bruises, and really come out, regroup, gather together, come out motivated against the Vancouver Canucks back home in Toronto. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, long break could go either way, but hopefully the Leafs can stay sharpen the knives up, sharpen the skates up, and get ready for Vancouver. We can't take Vancouver as a joke. At the end of the day, they still got some really good young talent, and they're going to be motivated. I think that they had a horrible start to the season. got spanked real hard by Montreal, but they're going to come back, and I think every game counts, and we're already almost 20% through the season. So teams know that when you drop points, especially in the only division you're playing in, every game counts. So I don't think that the 3 games we play against Vancouver are just going to be cakewalks. So we have to be ready for them.
And I think the long layoff again goes back to our earlier point. Freddie needs some rest. And I think he's going to be the biggest benefactor of having that layoff and having a day or two to really get his legs under him and just take a breather. And then come back more focused and ready for the Vancouver series.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be huge. They'll be catching the Canucks on their 3rd game in 4 nights as well. That's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. So that's huge. The Canucks, they're out in Winnipeg right now, and they're down 2-1, and they're gonna be tired. They're gonna be exhausted, fatigued, whatever way you want to put it or phrase it. The Maple Leafs are gonna have the advantage going into this game, and they need to capitalize on that.
And what do you expect to the Maple Leafs going into these Vancouver games?
Canucks score, by the way, 3-1 now.
What do you expect? What do you want to see out of these 3 games?
I want to see domination for a full 60 minutes for the first time. I want to see us dominate a full 60 minutes in one game. That's something we haven't seen yet from this Maple Leafs team. We've seen us win. We've seen us dominate 2 periods in a game, but not from the beginning of the game to the conclusion of it. We haven't seen
60 minutes.
a whole 60 minutes of domination from this team.
Yeah.
If we can do that and put that together, I'll be content. And I want to do that at least twice against the Canucks, who are struggling and coming to Toronto with not much rest.
And I think that touches back onto the thing we really need to see from the Toronto Maple Leafs this season that hasn't necessarily been there in seasons past. We need that killer instinct. This is the team that's projected to win this division. And they need to come out and show the Vancouver Canucks why. And not give them a chance. And back to what you said, Jake, that 60-minute domination, we've yet to see a game where they've fully been able to do it from minute 0 to minute 60. And I think Vancouver presents a really good chance with the team that's coming in their 3rd game in 4 nights, hasn't played as great at the start of the season. If there's a game for Toronto to show that they're capable of doing that, I think it's one of these Vancouver games.
Definitely. Question from Frank Rusty Nails. What is everyone's opinion on Barabanov? I personally think he needs to play for the Marlies to get accustomed to the North American game. Boyd needs to be in the lineup. I think Barabanov, he's looked a bit better in the past couple of games, but I want to touch on Tyler Boyd the most because he's got a Stanley Cup under his belt, and in his first game as a Maple Leaf, he made his presence felt against the Calgary Flames. He scored a goal in his first game. I think that Tyler Boyd, he earned some more playing time strictly off of that first game.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, looking at the total ice time tonight, and the 4th line just doesn't get a lot of ice time. So I think it's really limited in the impact you can make. But we've seen that Boyd, in the limited time he's gone, he got a nice goal. And at the end of the day, I think that Keefe's got to keep mixing it up. I mean, whether we're talking about the forwards with those 2 guys or we're talking about the defense with Lettinen tonight, I think that Keefe's got to continue to mix it up and play different players, reach into that depth in the taxi squad and just, mix up the lines and see what works, what doesn't, but also give players rest. I think that's key because we have a unique schedule right now. And it's unique times. We never know when someone's going to be injured or off for the designated list. And we have to be prepared at all times.
And do either of you know how many games Brabanov's got in now?
No.
I think a few.
Because if I'm being completely honest, I've yet to notice him in any of the Leaf games I've watched. And it's not like I've been keeping out a watchful eye for him and like I'm going to make sure I see what Brabanov does this game, but like there hasn't really been one thing that he's done that's like popped out to me and really stood out.
I think he's benefited from playing with Wayne Simmons and Jason Spezza.
And it was -1 tonight in 7 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's a good thing for his development to play with those players, those veteran presences, Wayne Simmons, Jason Spezza. Those are great first line mates in the NHL. But early on, it hasn't really been a factor at all in this lineup, and that's not what you like to see from someone.
Because I think what we really saw too, we saw Travis Boyd step in. And you saw him in that game. Even in a fourth line role, he was able to make an impact. And he was able to stand out. And I've yet to see that from Barbanoff, and I think Boyd needs some more time.
I'm with you. I think Boyd needs some more time as well. Let's talk about the face-off circle, though. We've got some statistics for you. Because we've been talking so frequently on this show. It feels like every show we've been coming on, we've been talking about how the Maple Leafs have been dominant in the face-off circle and how important that is.
Yep.
Well, tonight and the past 3 games, it hasn't been quite the same. The past 3 games, we've been under 50% in each of them. And tonight, we were only 42%. We only won 42% of the face-offs tonight. Clarky, you want to give us your thoughts on the Maple Leafs in the face-off circle and why is it so important?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jason Jasper had a really great point throughout the season so far that Leafs have dominated on the face-off circle. Got some stats here that we were well above 50 for the first 7 games. But the past 3 games, we've been 45, 47, and 42% at the dot. So I don't know if that's a concern yet, but it's definitely something that the Leafs need to keep their eye out on and make sure that at least against this Vancouver stretch we got coming up that we can win, be above 50 for a couple of those games because, I think that has been a key to our success so far. And, we got a great coach in Maholtra on the power play as well as 5-on-5, teaching the guys the different face-off tricks, I'm sure, because the guy's just an NHL legend. So hopefully the Leafs can patch that up a bit. But, yeah, the last 3 games, and Rib, you can speak on this a bit. Do you think that Calgary or Edmonton has any players that would skew that stat? Like, do you think that they have really good face-off men? Because I don't think, like, McDavid, for instance, is really good, even though he was 10-5 tonight.
I think Backlund is probably the only one that really comes to the top of my mind as a player that could potentially skew it, but that's one center. And I know Derek Ryan has also been pretty good on the draws. So those two potentially could have skewed it a bit, but I don't think it would have skewed it to the point where the Leafs are getting drastically outplayed in the face-off circle. And I think that's just an inconsistency that they have to look within themselves and sort that issue out going forward in the season.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's something that we're going to clean up. I mean, top to bottom, our center group, it could very well be the best center group up and down the lineup in the NHL. If not, it's at least one of them. And I'm very confident in that group and their ability to recover and continue the domination they had early in the season. I want to get to this question, or rather statement, from King Toronto. Ilya Mikheyev needs to go down to the 3rd line. And tonight we saw Jimmy Vesey on the 3rd line with Kerfoot. And on the 2nd line, Mikheyev was there with John Tavares and William Nylander. I think that the reason Mikheyev was up on the 2nd line is because he just hasn't gotten on the score sheet, and he's a very, very hardworking player. He's done very well. I've thought he's been a standout player on multiple occasions, but he's just had a lot of tough bounces that haven't gone his way. I think that it might be a good thing to bounce him back to the 3rd line because it seemed as if he had a good chemistry going with Alex Kerfoot.
And I think that's back to what we were touching on with the potential of trading for Sam Bennett. Do you really want to mess up a good thing? And I think both those lines are working very strong. Obviously, Jimmy Vesey was fitting in well on the 2nd line, and Mikheyev was playing a good supporting role on the 3rd line. And, yeah, as Jason Brooks just touched on, Soup has been close to so many goals, and I think he ultimately will get some soon. And obviously, Keith was trying to do him a favor tonight, move him up a line, see if he can get him going. And you got to admire that in the coach, too, to have the flexibility of seeing one of his guys is putting all the effort in, but really struggling to find the back of the net. And I think that demonstrates how Keith is a really good coach for this team. He can make those adjustments on the fly, and he truly believes in his guys. And whether it's Jimmy Vesey slotting down to the third line for a game or two, and Mikheyev slotting up one line, this is the time to experiment with minor changes like that and see where the fit ultimately lies. And I'm glad that Sheldon Keith is flexible, because we obviously saw with Mike Babcock that wasn't always the case. So I'm glad the Leafs now have a coach that's willing to tinker a little bit. And in the regular season, when you have games on games on games, you got to figure this out for when the more important games come down the stretch. And I'm glad Sheldon Keith is taking a proactive approach to this. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that Sheldon Keefe, he's been so valuable for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. He's really come in and done an outstanding job. Last year, he didn't even have a full season, but he really helped change what was going on. And the first 15 games as Maple Leafs head coach, he had the most wins in that time of any Maple Leafs coach in their first 15 games. That's impressive, considering how many coaches there's been in Maple Leafs history. I don't know the exact number, but I can imagine there's been a lot. Sheldon Keefe, he's done a really good job, and I love to see how he's not stubborn. He seems like a player's coach, and he's willing to make changes as he sees fit.
Yeah, I mean, first, just off sidetrack. If you haven't already, smash the like button, hit the notification bell. You'll get notified every time Varco, Jake goes live here. He goes live a lot. So if you want that notification, you got to hit that sub button. But, back to Keefe, I think that's a good point of how we transition from Mikheyev to Keefe. And I think Keefe, at the end of the day, credit to Dubas too, but let's focus on Keefe right now. We can get into Dubas later. And shoot your comments about Keefe and Dubas, what you guys think. But I'd say that Keefe overall, he's done a pretty good job so far. I mean, you got a lot of talent as a coach with the Leafs, and I think that's a blessing, that's a curse. You have to balance all these skills, and we can all recognize, a bit top heavy on the offensive end compared to defense at times. But I think Keefe's done a good job so far trying to mix up the lines. I would like to see him try and mix up the defensive lines a bit. I know we got chemistry between Hall and Muzzin now, but I don't know. I think that still, like, Riley a bit to those goals was kind of his fault, or he was part to blame. So I think there are some issues with the Leafs still. And we don't have a solidified third or fourth line, but maybe we won't the whole year because we have such a deep squad that we can rotate players in and out. So I think Keefe overall has done a great job, and you just got to continue to be creative, be flexible, and I think he's a player's coach. Do you guys think he's a player's coach?
Well, you know what? I'm going to answer that question because I've had Kasimir Kaskasuo on here for a past interview, and he said it himself. He was coached by Sheldon Keefe often, well, for a couple of years with the Toronto Marlies, and he said it himself. Keefe is a player's coach. I believe Keefe's a player coach, absolutely.
And I think they're both good coaches. We've seen, obviously, Mike Babcock is a legend in the coaching circles, and he's accomplishing great things throughout his career. But potentially with the younger players in Toronto, it just wasn't the ideal fit for his skill set. And I think Sheldon Keefe is ultimately a better fit for the current personnel the Leafs have. And they do need more of that player's coach and that motivator. And I think you've seen it in the way the Leafs have played under him.
Well, yeah, back to the thing about personnel. He has also helped so many of these players develop in the minors. He was coaching as Justin Hall, Travis Dermott, like, just to name a few, like Nylander. So many of these players that came up from the Marlies, he was coaching while they were in the Marlies system in the AHL level, and he transitioned with them to the NHL level. I think that's a great thing for both the players and Sheldon Keefe.
Yeah, I mean, that shows a coach as well as the players that puts in the work, works their way from maybe not at the top at the start, but works their way up. And I think Keefe's deserved to be a starting head coach for the Leafs, and he's done a good job so far. Keefe has done really well with the Leafs, and he hopes to work with some of the guys before. Yeah, great comment by Brooks about, he's working with the guys, he's worked with the Marlies. Has a lot of experience. So at the end of the day, we could overlook that easily, but I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely, it does. We've been on here for 55 seconds, so I'm just going to show one more thing. I'm going to show one more time the save that got the Maple Leafs a point tonight.
Archibald! What a stop!
I mean, amazing save from Frederik Andersen. Secured a point for the Maple Leafs when points are so valuable in this North Division. Honestly, I'm not that hurt by this loss. I mean, it's an easy one to shake off. It sucks to lose. I hate being on the losing end, but it is what it is. We got a point in every single game in Alberta. I'm content with it.
And I think, do we have a clip of this as well? Because I think I'm not sure if we touched on the broadcast, and I would like to see the goal. And I think the viewers would stand with me. Do we have the Austin Matthews goal?
No, we do not.
Okay. Well, we obviously saw good players in the Maple Leafs. They come out to play. Austin Matthews came out to play. Frederik Andersen came out to play. We came out with 1 point. And we're not going to win every game. And ultimately, getting each point is very important. And as Eric just touched on, each point, that's a very positive thing. And if the Leafs can get a point out of the majority of their games, then we're in a good position.
Yep. Clarky, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone in Leafs Nation tonight, especially in the comments, keep shooting what you think. But yeah, overall, everyone's saying at the end of the day, we had 3 wins in Alberta before this loss, so we can't be too upset. I think if we all knew before this road trip we were going to be 3-1, all of us would have been all right. You know, we're okay with that. That's good. Leafs got a great record. We're 7-3, so you know, overall, I think we got to keep that momentum going, though. I think that's key. We got to keep going. When Vancouver rolls into town, we got to be ready. And, you know, I didn't predict it, but I said to you guys that 3-1 would be a great record in Alberta. And, you know, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm thinking we could go at least 2-1 or 3-0 against Vancouver. That's what I'm thinking. What are you guys thinking? Shoot your comment about it.
I'm with you. I mean, I'd be happy with that. Now that I've seen what this team's really capable of doing, I'm hungry and I want more. Like I said a week ago that I'd be content if the Maple Leafs took 2 of the 4 games in Alberta. And they really exceeded my expectations in every way. And Jason makes a good point. I just think the travel caught up with the Maple Leafs. We came out looking slow, and we rebounded. We rebounded towards the end of the game. But it is what it is. We got the point. Rib, what do you think?
I'd be happy with 2 wins. I think that's a good benchmark, and if we get the 3rd, that's a bonus. But I think the better team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, needs to come in and win 2 of these games, 2 out of 3.
Yep, and I like this comment. Can't underestimate them. This team went further in the playoffs than us last year. We didn't even qualify for the playoffs. But you know what? The Canucks are a talented young team. They really are a talented young team. They've been struggling early on, but I don't know how long that will last.
Yeah, I agree.
So we've been on here almost an hour. Myself, I've been on here since 7 p.m. and I've had a long night. So it was a loss, but it was a fun night. I'm ready to call it a night. Rib, you want to give your closing words and then pass it on to Clarky?
Okay. Well, I'm happy everyone again showed up. Shout out in the comments to all our repeat viewers. We got Jason Brooks constantly coming out. Robert Ferguson, always nice to see you. We've got Austin, haven't seen you in a little bit. Happy you're back. Frank Rusty Nails, love to see you guys in the comments. Love your content and love how you always are extremely engaged. To anyone that hasn't already, smash that like button and the notification bell. Your boy Jake's been grinding on today. He's been here from 7 p.m. on with you guys. Show him some love. Show him the support. And as always, thanks for having me on the show. Thanks for playing a part. And I'm glad we got to see a really good, successful Alberta trip for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think Clarky's leaving us early.
We lost Clarky's connection, but we're adding him to the stream. Maybe let's see if he loads. Okay, Clarky.
Okay. He's coming back for goodbye after all. No surprises here.
Can you give us?
I've been lagging. I'm lagging here. My internet's trying to kick in. I kicked the box. It's good to go. I got a last little bit here to say goodbye to everyone. And I just want to say, you know, Thank you, everyone, for coming in. Thank you, Jake, for having us. I'll reiterate 3 things here tonight. Okay, the first thing is Leafs lost, tough loss. What are we going to do about it? We're going to go back. We're going to spank Vancouver. We're going to go 3-0. It's going to be great. We're going to go to, I can't even do the math. Is that 10 wins? Yeah, 10-3. Wow, that'd be a great record. No, 11-3. Can't even do the math. I don't even know. It'll be a great record no matter what. Next, thanks for everyone coming out tonight, commenting. Howard, Austin, AC. AC's had a lot of great comments tonight. Everyone has. Stephanie Smith. Your comments are what make this show happen. So keep commenting every time we go live or Varco goes live, because we're always going live here on this channel. But yeah, it's really important. And thank you so much. And then again, thank you for having us on, Jake, Varco. It's really great to come on, talk about the Leafs, and just enjoy a great time with the Leafs, Leaf fans, and the Leaf base. And I just like to say to everyone, stay safe. That's the key. Stay safe, stay healthy. And it's crazy times we live in, but I just want everyone to know we got hockey to make us happy and cheer us up. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody, stay safe out there, and also stay tuned for more content coming your way on this channel. There's going to be a preview for these Canucks games coming up in the near future. I'll probably be doing a live stream for one of them. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I'm super excited to see what the future holds for Maple Leafs media. I got to say thank you to everybody in the comments section. Thank you to everybody who's been watching this, whether you stopped in for a second or here for the whole show, whether you are here with me all night in the past 4 or 5 hours. Thank you. It's really outstanding, the support that you show this channel. Thank you all. And Rib, Clarky, thank you, boys, for coming on here and having a great show with me tonight. I'm going to end the show on a bit of a happy note. I know the Maple Leafs lost tonight, but they got the point. They got a point in every one of the games. So I'm going to light the lamp and we'll get out of here. We may have lost, but it was still a win in my books. Go Leafs, go.